How old are you?
I am now 38.
Oh, so you started to wake up when you enter into your 30s?
I entered into graduate school
Oh,
at 28, and that's when I first started to encounter the mind virus symptoms where I was told there were students protesting, claiming that Emerson was racist. And I was in graduate level courses, which means they're taught by some of the top professors. So I had a course taught by the dean of the undergraduate student body the day after the protest. So we sit down for a 4-hour class on the philosophy of teaching, because I was training to be a teacher and a professor was what I was planning. And they had the head of the social justice center present because they wanted to spend the entire 4 hours to
yeah.
deliberate on these recent protests and how we can address our inherent unbiased, our inherent subconscious bias as white people. And I was told, me and the two other white students were told to not speak the whole class and to concede our space. That's the best thing
Really?
we could do, was to concede our space. And I thought, what, this doesn't make sense.
So they literally told you, as a white guy, you can't say anything.
Yeah, they said, just don't take this time to not talk and to concede your space. Those are the exact words.
So what was the purpose of being in the class then if they weren't going to allow you to speak?
That's the question I was asking myself at the time. And they were talking about decolonializing or decolonizing the canon. I can't remember which of the two it was. And I remember the dean seemed bothered by this, but he seemed too afraid to say anything.
Yeah.
Because then after the class was over, we got in the elevator and it was just me and him. And he sighed under his breath. He was saying, decolonize the canon. This is ridiculous. And I remember that distinctly. We rode down the elevator and then left. And it was at night because they were like night classes. He was bothered by it. There were a lot of professors bothered by it, but it was this power of the mob that had this Facebook group running called #EmersonSoRacist, and they would record professors. There was no evidence of real racism. There were just microaggressions. And there were so many experiences I had where I saw that change grown adults.
That's amazing. What is it like being white and being under attack, being blamed for everything? You're not allowed to speak up. You're not allowed to disagree with all this mess. What is it like knowing that white people, especially white men like you, are the most hated species on this side of heaven? What does that feel like to live that way?
Where I am now, I am free of it, and I don't even think about it. And yeah, people come at you online. But then when I was in that college space, you definitely feel it. You get looks, and that there are many guys, they're all trying to performatively separate themselves from that group, but it felt absolutely opposite to everything I thought we were supposed to be doing, because it does feel that way. You are a minority. The majority, no, and this is this is true, that there were, I would estimate 80% of the students, maybe 75% of the students were from China. So they were the majority because they get more money from Chinese. And this was only the graduate level. Undergrad seemed to reflect different demographics, but that was very strange. And I tried to investigate that a bit, and there was a lot of women. So men, white guys, are definitely a minority. Like that class I was describing, there was probably 15 to 20 students in there. There was 3 white guys. And that's how the average class is. There are a number of classes. There was a class where I signed up for, came in, and I was not the only American student. I was the only non-Chinese student. And they're all speaking in Chinese. And you're supposed to be doing a lot of group projects because it's film directing and all this. And I dropped the class. It's like, this isn't going to work. So it's not a good feeling.
What made you stay at Emory College? Emerson College, knowing that was happening. Why did you stay?
Because I had a half-ride scholarship. I really liked Boston and Massachusetts, despite the crazy mentality here. I understand that it's a very liberal state. I really like the history, the American Revolution. It's the closest thing I have found to what feels like Europe in a way. And I've since settled here outside of the city. I really like where I live in this small town. But you're just trying to get to the finish line so you can get that MFA, that master's. You're not really learning from these classes.
Right.
Yeah, you're learning some stuff from that, but you're really learning from what you're doing. Like your thesis, for example, it got to the point where it was so difficult for me to even find crew members to work on, because you have to make a movie in film school. And I'm not saying I would recommend film school, but it depends on what you want to do. It did serve me well. But you have to make a movie with a crew. No one wanted to be on my crew because I think they started to get a sense. I wanted to make a movie first about Winston Churchill. They told me I couldn't do that because he was racist. I had questioned the Chinese. I tried to make a little documentary just interviewing the students about why did you choose to come to America to study? Because they had just come directly from China. They hadn't been living in China. Their families they hadn't been living in America. Their families still lived in China. So there was a bit of ostracization to where I could not get a single person to crew on it. So I made the movie by myself.
Amazing.
With two other friends that weren't even at the college, and I used all my own equipment and everything. That's where you're going to learn. It's not from the classes. You're paying a fortune. The average tuition is $60,000 a year. Now, I got a half ride, but it's a lot of money. So you're just trying to get to the finish line and you're going to have to put up with this crap. And there's not many options. Wherever you go, most colleges are going to be like that, especially in Massachusetts. So it didn't seem logical to move given my plan and what I was trying to do.
So were you traumatized?
No, I wouldn't say I was traumatized.
You weren't traumatized. And so now when you go out and around whatever you do, and you're out there and people looking at you because you're white, what does that feel like? How's that? Because you can't say anything.
If someone's looking at me now, it's more likely it's because of YouTube. Maybe they've seen me on YouTube or something.
You like that?
Do I like that?
Would you prefer to be looked at as a popular person on YouTube, or if they didn't know this about you and you were walking about or going about your way, they saw you as a white man to be hated?
Well, in Boston, there's a lot of white people. At the college, it's different. But when you're walking around Boston, it's kind of known as there's not there are black people. There's not a huge, like the movie The Departed, they make a joke about that. He's like, you're a black guy in Boston, you're already screwed. So I think it's more political because it's more, as a male, like what we were saying, I think it's more political where if you get labeled in a community like that as disagreeing, and I wasn't even considering myself conservative at that point, but I don't know, I just ignore it, honestly.
Oh, okay. And so
it sucks. Yeah.
It sucks?
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Like if people look down and they don't even know you.
Yeah.
Someone told me, they said, Warren, I feel like you were born in the wrong century.
Yeah.
I thought, what does that mean? Because I was wearing a button up and I had kind of dress shoes on or something at the time, I think. And I've been really interested in Winston Churchill. I think that's what that was coming from.
Amazing. So it sucks. And you're right about that.